Justin Jones-Fosu, your host of the 7-minute episode Everyday Diversity series. And this episode, we're diving into the right hand paradigm, what privilege is really all about, and how do we use it for the good of others. And so I'd like to first ask you a very important question. It's a personal question, but I want to ask you the question. How many of you, by show of hands, yes, as you're watching even at your computer or your phone or your iPad, right? How many of you are right-handed? We're right-handed people. Okay. Now, are you left-handed? Ambidextrous? Hey, hey. And it's interesting for me because I learned something pretty powerful, what I call the right hand paradigm, several years ago. Now, I was doing this speaking tours, about 8 cities and 7 days in the South, and I remember stopping into this country store. And I was there getting some snacks and some things. I don't think I was being healthy at that point. And I remember I heard this guy yell at the top of his lungs, like, these doors aren't made for left-handed people, right? And then my first reaction is like, why is there a guy yelling in the store? And then my second reaction is, what is he talking about? Doors aren't made for left or right-handed people. They're just made for people. And so, but it caught my attention enough. And so I remember going and kind of looking, peering over, probably through like little soap stuff, right? And looking. And it looked like it was one of those hot dog machines, that have the little hot dog spinners in it to keep the hot dogs warm. And it looked like the left-handed door was a little spring thing. As he opened it up, he hit his hand on the refrigerator because the refrigerator was right next to it. It like didn't give any room. It's like boom, right? Which is why I believe he yelled. But the right-handed door didn't open up to anything. And so it caught my attention. I was like, let me dive deep into the research. And so I began to do a research. And y'all, I realized that left-handed people lived a whole different life than I did. As I started diving into research, I found that back in the day when people would go to schools and you used to be desks for left and right-handed people, that majority of the desks were for right-handed people. And if there were any left-handed desks, the left-handed people got there early just to see if they could get their own desk. I learned that scissors that say that they're multi-handed are still made for right-handed people, right? I learned that some of my business colleagues would get to dinner meetings early so they could sit on the edge to not bump into the person who's right-handed. I learned that spiral notebooks were the bane of left-handed people's existence, right? I learned so many powerful things. Some people were taught it was a curse. They were made not to use their left hand. So many other things. And one time I was doing some work with NIH, and we figured out a great mystery was solved. Because there was one lady, as we asked a question about the left-handed people in the room, and one lady who there was the big friction, but the people always wonder, like, why was she so stingy with her pens? And she didn't even connect the dots yet. She was like, well, the reason, as we found out, was because she finally found pens that wouldn't smear as she wrote, because she was left-handed. Mystery solved. But it's amazing that when I first started doing the research on left-handed people, that in my 30 plus years of age at that time, that I had no idea that they lived a whole different life than I did. You know why? Because I was right-handed in a society that catered to my right-handedness. Things were made for me. Scissors were made for me. Cabinets were made for me. Desks were made for me. These things were made. I had the luxury to not have to think about it. So I ask you, where else do you have that same luxury? Where else are you right-handed in a society that caters to your right-handedness? This is not just about a handedness thing. This is also about age. This is not just about age. This is also about gender. This is not just about gender. This is also about race. This is not just about race. This is also about sexuality. This is not just about sexuality. This is also about religion. This is not just about religion. This is also about socioeconomics. This is not just about socioeconomics. This is also about education. And the list goes on, ability and other things. My question is, how will you use your luxury? Or let's just say, how will you lend a hand, pun intended, to someone who does not have the same luxuries to you. Not because they're needy, but because you have a luxury and you're in a position to be able to engage. Right? Let me give you an example. So for me, as a many times facilitator and workshop person, when I don't do keynotes, one of the things is as I now figure out how can I become an advocate? How do I find ways to utilize my own luxury or hashtag privilege for good? Right? And so if I'm leading a workshop and I'm assigning seats, I may notice a person who's left-handed. I'm starting to look out for those things now. And I may go up to them and say, hey, I notice you might be left-handed. I'm not 100% sure. But if you are, would you prefer I put you on the edge so you're not bumping the person who's right-handed? And some people they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. The fact that I saw them is how I use my luxury for good. And so I ask you, how can you use your own luxury for good? Do you know why that's so important to me? Hey. Well, after I started doing the research, I found out someone very special to me is actually left-handed. My son. Prince Peter, as I call him, right? You know? And he would go up to people and be like, hi! You know what they'd tell him? Wrong hand. But I started noticing things as I was taking him to soccer shots when he was 3 and 4 years old, and the coaches would be like, okay, all right, I want you to kick it with your right foot, and I want you to dribble with your right foot and put your right foot on it. And Peter struggled mightily because he's like, he just was struggling until I finally had to, address it and go to the coach and say, oh, he's left-handed, and so you may want to use his left foot and dribble with his left and kick with his left. And you know that Peter started kicking the ball really hard. I may have bruises to prove that, right? But he was doing well because he had an advocate. So many other people that when shared, when given the opportunity, when we can utilize our luxuries, our privilege for the good of others, that it actually creates a better space. So what will you do? What will be your action? Right? You know what also I found is that left-handed people don't normally go around talking about, hey, these are my left-handed issues, right? They normally don't do that, right? Probably because they just don't think people would listen to them, right? But when given opportunity to share those perspectives and issues, they have great wisdom to be able to say, hey, this is how things can be improved. So will you give voice? Will you use your luxuries, your privilege for others? So what will you do? Ultimately, what might you be missing? Especially from those who are different. It's a great opportunity to learn and to engage. What will you do with your luxury? With all that being said, one thing I'd love for you to do is to stay connected with me. I'm Justin at workmeaningful.com. You can reach me at social media, all these places at iWorkMeaningful, and I'd love to connect with you. Stay tuned because episode 5 is what I learned from the kid on the plane who wouldn't shut up, right? And so I don't know if I used my privilege for good there, but but it is a very, very helpful thing about courageous curiosity and authentic listening, which does directly tie into the right-hand paradigm and learning about others. And so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching the 7-mini episode Everyday Diversity series. Again, I'm Justin Jones-Fosu. Thank you so much, and see you next episode.